Alright everybody, I'm back here again with another humidor, cabinet humidor, and gonna start off with creating the carcass. This will be part one of probably a two-part series. This humidor isn't quite as big as the last one I made, and so like I said, we cut down this mahogany plywood, putting a rabbet on the back of it so that the back piece will be able to fit inside that rabbet. And I needed that rabbet to be 3/4 of an inch deep, so I had to run it standing up like that. And as you can see there, I got it just right at 3/4, and using my chisel here to get a little bit of what was left over that the blade didn't get. And now I'm going to use the domino. Using the domino, put the mortises on both ends. On the short sides, then on the long side, I'll put the mortises right on the inside of the cabinet. And apologize for me being in the way there. It wasn't the best angle. And here I had to put a little piece down inside that rabbet right there because the domino wouldn't register off that end. So I had to make it a little thicker in that area temporarily. And I'm just dry fitting everything here, making sure everything's going to go together just right. So I'm just finessing it all in place. And everything fit just fine, so we're going to go ahead and start gluing it up. And going to use the clamps to make sure it's all secured together. And this one I'm going to be doing a little bit different. Normally at this point I would go ahead and glue in the back piece, which what I'm doing now is I'm cutting down that back piece right now. And I'm cutting it down, and but I'm just not going to glue it in place, because in the past when I go to put the cedar, Spanish cedar on the inside, it makes it hard to get clamping pressure all the way across. So what I'm going to be doing, and I will show you in just a second, because I believe I'm about to cut the, I'm going to cut the cedar strips here. So this is a 8/4 rough Spanish cedar. I'm jointing one of the faces, and then I'm going to joint one of the edges. And so I'm resawing it on the table saw here, and I'm creating these 3/16 of an inch strips of Spanish cedar. And I actually went a little overboard here on cutting all these strips down. I didn't need this many. I guess I was used to doing that bigger humidor from the time before. And I'm taping the edges together here. And reason for that is I can I'll be able to get glue down the seam, and the tape will hold them together while the glue dries. This makes applying the glue down the seam very easy. And just closed up, clean the excess glue off, and that is good to go. Here I'm just cutting down some, I think 1/4 inch strips, which is going to go on the front of the humidor to cover up the plies on the plywood. And this is sapelli, cutting them down on the sliding miter saw to the correct length. And gonna glue them on. And pin nail them down. And even though I use the pin nailer here on them, I still come back and apply clamps just because I want to make sure I'm getting a very good tight fit. And compared to the huge humidor that I made this last time, my order of operations was much easier. I could go in the correct operations, correct order I was supposed to. Whereas with the big one, I was having to do whatever I could in the position that it was in and make sure before I moved it. So this was much easier. And so I'm applying the Spanish Cedar liner here and applying the glue. And you're about to see what I was talking about earlier, where I'm going to remove the, I'm actually going to use the backing in position right now. It's not glued in, so I can get it exactly where it needs to be at, and it's all lined up. And I'm going to put these types of clamps on there so it doesn't move. And then you'll see in just 1 second, I'm going to use some cawls to and take the backing back out, and then I can clamp all the way across, if that makes sense. You'll see in just a moment what I'm talking about. So I had the back clamped in place, like I said, and took those clamps off. And as you can see, I'm applying those cawls across and clamping those, and this will get even pressure all the way across. And now I'm doing the other side. And then once this dries, I'll put the back in again, and this way I can do the 2 long sides and doing the same thing. Only difference is on these I had to do one side at a time, let it dry, and then go back and do the other side. And as you see, I'm gonna take the back out, put the clamps on, and then I did the exact same thing to the other side. And at this point now I can come in and I can glue the back piece in. Clamp down the back. Gonna let that dry, and once that dries, then I can come back and flip it over and use my flush trim saw to get that excess Spanish cedar off. And I didn't have to get it exactly lined up. I did come back later and use the sander to get it all flushed up. And the customer who commissioned me to do this, he's gonna want some Queen Anne legs on this, and I've never done Queen Anne legs before. So in the next video, you're gonna be able to see me doing Queen Anne legs for the very first time. Right now, I'm putting the back piece of the veneered cedar, putting the glue down, and that piece just goes right in. That's a wonderful feeling. And there again, now that with the clamping issue, I'm having to put some weight down on that to hold it down. I haven't figured out a way yet to make that part easier. And here I'm there again using some sapelli, and I'm cutting it down, and this will go on the back of the humidor to cover up the plies on the back. And I'll tell you what, if y'all wouldn't mind letting me know in the comments, do y'all like it when I break these down into multiple parts, shorter videos and multiple parts, or would y'all rather me just do one long video? Just let me know in the comments what y'all like for me to do. And as always, I do appreciate y'all watching the videos, sharing them, liking them, leave me a comment, and I appreciate it. And this video is about to come to the conclusion. And again, let me know in the comments what y'all like for me to do. Long video with one part or multiple shorter videos. All right, part 2 of the humidor cabinet with the Queen Anne legs. I've got some 4/4 stock here that I'm breaking down. I'm going to glue them together to make the bottom and the top of the humidor. Just using the joiner, get the edges nice and square. And here I'm just marking for where I'm gonna put the dominoes at. Dominoes probably weren't really necessary here, but I've got it, so might as well use it. Get the alignment right. Adds a little bit of structural strength. Some say it doesn't, some say it does. I think it does. So once I get all these dominoes mortised out, go ahead and begin to glue up here. I'm gonna place it in the clamps. Put some cawls on there just to, even though with the dominoes it's lined up pretty good, I just have a habit of still using cawls anyways. And once the glue dries, I'm gonna go ahead and use the cross-cut sled and get all the edges even. Take it over to the router table, and on the top edge I did a slight round over, and then on the bottom edge I came back with just a slight chamfer, more or less just to break the edges. Yeah. It did look nice also, but and now I'm going to glue the top on. And as you can see, I put a board back there on the back, clamped it up there so I can use that to get it to where I need it to be. And I figured that was about the easiest way to do it. Clamping it down, wiping out the squeeze out. And here's where I freehand drew the pattern for the Queen Anne legs on a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, and using my bandsaw to cut this out. And once I get it cut out, I'm gonna take it over to the sanders, oscillating sander, and whatever the other sander's called, the disc sander. And this just basically all the edges nice and smooth. And now I'm gonna laminate some pieces of sapelli together to make some legs that are going to be about 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. By about 18.5 inches long. And once I get this laminated together, I'm going to take the pattern, trace it on, and then as you can see, you put it right there on the corner together. And here's how this works. You're gonna use your bandsaw to cut this out, and you're gonna try to cut it out in as much of a solid piece as you can, because you're gonna come back and tape those pieces back, flip it over, and then cut the other side out. And the main reason why you have to tape those back on there is just mainly for being able to keep the piece flat. I believe I was able to do this in 3 or 4 pieces, and now, like I said, you tape them back on there. And by the way, this is the first time I've ever done these Queen Anne legs. I felt really great about how well they turned out. So the cut is going to come out fairly rough. Doing the legs again next time, well, for one, I need a better blade, but you know, it's my first time doing it, so I will come back and basically file and sand down to the line to get those legs nice and smooth. Right here, I believe I am cutting the wood for the door, I believe. And now I'm just laying out to where I'm going to mortise. Not mortise. I'm actually going to do a sliding dovetail. And I take it back. I wasn't cutting the wood a while ago for the door. I was cutting the wood for the aprons. And like I was saying, I'm going to cut dovetail slots on these, as you can see right here. I'm using a straight bit first just to hold most of it out. And then I'm going to come back right here with the dovetail. And then on the apron, I'm going to stand them up so I can cut the other end of the dovetail, the male end. And then just going to cut a little piece of this off, because whenever you do the dovetail on the router, it does leave a round end, and this way it's going to go all the way in. On this piece of the apron, I'm cutting these semicircles out here, and then I'll also do this again on the top piece of the door. You'll see that in a few. And I'm just doing a round over on these aprons. Nothing crazy, just enough to break the edges. And now we're going to go ahead and glue up these aprons onto the Queen Anne legs, and I'm just getting some glue into the, I guess you call the female part of the dovetail, and using my mallet to get these down. I want to get them seated all the way in. And there's how it looks. And then I'm gonna use these figure 8, what are they called? The figure 8 tabletop fasteners or whatever you want to call them. I use my Forstner bit to kind of drill out this corner here. And what these figure eights allow you to do is it allows for wood movement. So if the wood begins to move, and that little piece that I hollowed out with the Forstner bit, it's going to give it some side-to-side movement there. And here I'm cutting out holes with leveler feet. And there again, just using the blue tape so I know how far to go down. And so I'm going to drill the hole. And then these particular level feet came with little plastic grommets, whatever you want to call them. And you just screw these down. I like to put leveling feet on pretty much any project I do, just because everybody's floors are different. Not many of them are level. And here I just drew some lines, nice straight lines, so I knew where to drill. I probably went a little overboard. I put 9 screws in this, and I did not glue this down though, just in case the client wanted to take this off and use that bottom piece as an actual coffee table or whatnot. I thought that was a, just kind of thinking ahead type deal, Here I am taking some Spanish cedar and squaring up the top. This is going to be for the drawer. And now I'm just going to run it through the planer to get it all 3 of those pieces down to the correct thickness. And I decided on this drawer I want to go ahead and do some half-blind dovetails. I've practiced dovetails a little bit. I've never done dovetails for a commission. Here I am using my gauge to see how far down I need to scrap this line. And this will be for the tails. And I'm just scribing it all the way around. And then on the actual front of the drawer, I'm using a piece of sapelli, and it's thicker. You can't have it the same size as the other pieces, since I'm doing a half blind. As you'll see in a moment, you'll see what I'm talking about. And here I'm just using a jig, Cat Moses's dovetail jig. Just helps me cut straight on the dovetails. And I decided to go ahead and cut both the dovetails both the tails sides at the same time. There again, took a risk, but I'm glad I did. It saved some time and it made sure everything was the same. And now I'm just getting rid of the waste. And that Spanish cedar is fairly soft, so this was really easy to get out. Didn't take much time at all. Just making sure I'm getting all the waste out of there and it's nice and flat. And now I'm using my marking knife to mark those tails onto the pin board. And as you can see, I've only got those tails halfway across the board. Hence the half blind dovetails. You can only see the tails. You can't see the, how would you put that? Well, you can't see the tails come all the way through, I guess you can say. Here I am cutting out the waste, just leaving the pins. And once again, like I said, that Spanish cedar is really soft, so it was really easy to do. I'm going to use a piece of mahogany ply as the drawer bottom. So here I'm just cutting a dado. And I ran them through with the saw blade itself was 1/8 of an inch. Then I came back, moved it over a little bit because I needed about 3/16 of an inch. No, I'm sorry, not 3/16. I believe it was a quarter of an inch. And then since I did the half blind dovetails on the front of the drawer, on the back, I just did simple rabbits, and I'll glue those and then use my pin nailer to secure them. And here I'm just putting some glue in on the pin board, putting the half blind dovetails in. Now I'm cutting the piece of plywood. And you know what? I think it was 3/16, not a quarter inch. It was 3/16 for the plywood. You know, I'm doing this voice over here, and this was probably done about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'm just kind of doing this, shooting from the hip. Now here I am. I'm sliding in that piece of cardboard, plywood in, and getting it seated down in there. And then I'm gonna put after I glue this up right here, I'm gonna drill a small hole through the plywood into the backboard right here, and just use a small screw just to get it hold it in place. This way, if the board ever breaks or whatnot, it can be replaced. And now I'm starting on the door, and this is going to be the top piece of the door. And there again, I did this to match the half circles on the apron. Once again, using the dominoes to put the door together. Now, most humidors, usually the door has glass in it. This client did not want glass. He wanted it to be a solid panel. So what I ended up doing is, I guess when you put glass in the back of the door, you can just cut a rabbet out, and then you can put the glass in using a silicone caulking. And with this, as you can see, I'm just doing the corners where the boards are held together with the clamps, because I didn't want to do this all the way around with the clamps on. So I just did the parts that I had to do with it clamped up, and then I took it back apart and then finished doing this groove here. And doing the groove right here on these half circles was very nerve-wracking because I was doing my best not to break those things. And here I am, 1/8 inch mahogany ply, and I'm going to cut these to size, and then I'm going to laminate them together, and that will make it about 1/4 inch thick. You want to use plenty of glue because when laminating this together, you want to make sure that every possible place you can get glue, you put glue on there. And then, as you'll see in a second, you want to use a bunch of cawls and a bunch of clamps because you want pressure over every square inch. You don't want any gaps. So you want to make sure, like I said, you've got pressure everywhere. And now that I've got the panel glued up, now I can begin to glue up the door. And so I'm putting glue and dominoes in there. And I put glue into the groove where the panel's going. Not a lot, just a little bit. And I more or less just did this because I knew that I don't want to worry about no wood movement from the panel. And I didn't want it jiggling around or making any noise. So this is just going to help keep it more solid. And here I am using the mallet to get this panel down in there. I hate these glue ups. They're very nerve-wracking. They rarely go like they're supposed to for me. But got them together, and now I'm gonna get the clamps on there. And while that dries, I was just gonna use like a little finger hole here so the drawer can, so you can pull the drawer in and out. And once again, you want to go almost all the way in, and once the pin part of the point part of the Forstner comes out the other end, then you just kind of go in there and kind of what you're trying to do is you want to cut enough of the board with the Forstner bit so there's no tear out. And now I'm just rounding over on the door. And here I'm beginning to put together the baskets for the cigars. This is what you use to store your cigars while it's inside the humidor. Once again, this is Spanish cedar. And I'm just using glue and my pen nailer. And it's just a simple little whatever you want to call that little basket. These right here, I'm going to use those to as braces, so I can have something to glue and pin nail the little cross members onto. And as you can see, I'm pin nailing at an angle, and that way I think they're 3/4 inch pin nails, and that keeps them from coming out the other end. And just tacking on one pin nail. I'm using a dowel as a spacer. Tack one pin on each side. And just a little bit of glue is all you really need. And these things came out really nice and solid and sturdy. The client, he wanted 3 or 4 of these baskets in the humidor, and I ended up being able to get 5 of these into the humidor for him, so he was really happy with that. And now I'm just using the offcut from the sides of the baskets. As you can see, it matches the angle. And I'm taking these dowels and I'm using them to where the baskets will slide onto those. Since there was no shelves in this, that was a little ideal that I came up with. And just goes just like that. Now we're gonna start putting the hardware on. These are the hinges for the door. This one's gonna have 3 hinges on it. And I use paste wax on these screws. It just helps them go into the holes a little easier, because you know these brass screws, they are not very good, and you can easily break them. But that paste wax will actually help them, you know, lube them up, and they'll go into the hole a lot easier. And if you can see right there, I made a mistake. The hinge with the 3 holes is what was supposed to go on the door, and the 2 holes go on the carcass. And you can see that I did fix the mistake right there, and you would never even know it. Using a 2-inch hole saw here, I've got a socket that I got. It's got a 1 3-prong plug and 2 USBs on it. This way he can plug his humidor inside, and then the outside plug can plug into the wall, and it makes it, you know, less clutter as far as the wires go. Using Rubio Monocoat. This color was chosen by my client. It is coral red or something like that. I wasn't too confident in the color that he chose, but as you can see here in a second, oh man, he chose right on. This really, the color was really, it surprised me. I didn't expect for this color to just pop like it did. So just gonna start applying it. And you just use a little plastic scraper to move it all around, and then you use the white Scotch pad to kind of just buff it into the wood. Make sure you're getting even coverage everywhere. And then once you get it all covered, after about 15 minutes or so, you come back and with a towel and get all the excess off. Great thing about the Rubio Monocoat is a little bit goes a long way. Now we're doing the bottom piece. And there again, just in case the client wanted to take the top part of the humidor off and use this as just a side table or something, I want to make sure that I got every nook and cranny. I want everything to be covered with the Rubio. So I've seen people say, you know, hey, can you use Rubio and stuff with curves and stuff like that, because they only see people using it on flat surfaces or whatnot. I mean, as you can see, there's plenty of curves on this piece right here, so yeah, you definitely can. Okay, now I'm drilling the hose for the handle for the door pull. Now I'm just measuring just to make sure I get this straight up and down. And now I'm drilling a starter hole for the lock using just a regular bit. I'm gonna come back with a spade bit. There again, same concept. Get the hole started, and now I can go to the other side since I drew the starter hole, and just kind of you know, breaking the wood. That way there's no tear out on the other side as this bit comes out. We got the lock in now. Turned out really good. Here's a few pictures. Client came over to the house, and needless to say, he loved it. He was very happy with it. He was hugging it and hugging on it, loving on it. I was super happy. He was super happy. I was super happy that he was super happy. And thanks again, everybody, for watching. Please share, comment, subscribe if you haven't. Thank you.